Hello, travelers and monster catchers abound. I'm Stelliferous, and you've crash landed on the Monster Catchers Journal podcast. So, the sky above the crater of the echoing thoughts was warped, twisting with stormlight and static, like the world itself was having a panic attack. We'd followed the trail of black feathers and thorny vines for miles, each one humming with unease. Orbeak flitted nervously on my shoulder, wings twitching with every gust of wind. Zena tightened her grip on Ignazura's reins, and Luna muttered something to Myrno in a strange whisper language of hers. That's when we heard it. Laughter. Not joyous, not cruel, but shaky, like someone giggling through a breakdown. From the crater's center rose a spiraling body covered in blinking, spiraling eyes. Two enormous wings spread out like a cathedral window, catching fire, and a wide grin split across its face. Spiked sun-like rays jutted from its head, and its body slithered with nervous energy. It was Thorn Edge. It billowed with a nervous twitch. I controlled anxiety. I can fly at you and drop thorns of anxiety on you. Its laughter sent out pulses that made our thoughts blur. Doubts, worries, regrets. I saw flashes of every mistake I ever made. Every time I've hesitated. Every mission I'd second-guessed. But I'm Stelliferous. I know what fear feels like, and I don't run. I summoned the calming light from my Veilstone, channeling it into a reflective barrier. We've all got anxiety, I said, but we don't let it drive. The barrier reflected its pulse back at it, its fears, its spiraling thoughts, and its faltered in midair. I don't want to hurt anyone. I just didn't want to be alone, Thornedge whispered. That's when I stepped forward, holding out my hand. Then don't be. It spiraled down gently, folding its wings around itself. I reached out, touched its head, and the glyph bond sealed with a golden shimmer. The anxious laughter softened into a quiet hum. I thought that I had caught Thornedge in that moment, but he completely destroyed the Glyph, his spikes pulsing out and shattering the Glyph into a million pieces. Thornedge flew up into the sky, and that's when I stepped forward, hand outstretched. Don't be afraid. But he spiraled down gently, folding his wings around himself like a fallen angel. The storm eased, the static fell away. I finally reached to touch his head, and that's when it snapped. Its grin didn't fade, it widened. With a sudden whip of its body, Thornedge screamed, not in fear, but in panic-fueled rage. 1,000 thoughts hit us like daggers, and then, with one sickening lurch, its jagged spiraled tail struck the capture Glyph behind me. Flash of light, a shattering sound like glass meeting eternity. The Glyph screamed and was gone, shattered into a million fragments of pure veil energy. No, I screamed, the bond fading before it could ever form. Zena and Luna shouted behind me. Too late. Thornedge hovered above, panting heavily, its spiraling eyes darting in every direction. I didn't mean to. It cried. I didn't want it to go away. Why does everything leave? I stared up at it, stunned, heart pounding, my thoughts a thunderstorm. And then I understood. Thornedge hadn't calmed down. It had suppressed the panic long enough to get close. And when it felt safe, the fear exploded. It wasn't ready to bond, not yet. I stepped back, Veilstone glowing dimly in my palm. Retreat, I whispered. This isn't a win, not today. We went back the following Vathan, which is the word for weekend on my planet. The crater was quieter this time, no static, no pulsing laughter, just the wind whispering through the broken glyph stones like it was trying to remember a song. Zena stayed behind at the ridge with Ignazura. Luna walked halfway with me, then stopped Bruno, curling around her legs like a watchful shadow. "I think he's waiting for you," Luna whispered. She was right. Thorn Edge was already there, hovering. Not circling, not spinning, just waiting. Like he'd known all along the last time wasn't the last time. His spiral body drooped low, not in aggression, but exhaustion. The golden spines on his back were dull, like fear had worn him thin. "I thought I broke everything," he said. "I didn't want to be seen again, but I couldn't stop hoping you'd come back." I stepped into the crater alone, heart racing, but this time not from fear, from understanding. "You didn't break everything," I said. "You only proved you're still hurting." He blinked slowly at the thousands of spiraling eyes along his body didn't flicker with panic this time. They shimmered, reflecting me. Not a threat, not a savior, just me. He lowered his head. "If I try again, will you let me?" This time I didn't reach out first. I waited. And Thornedge, trembling, terrified, and brave, reached for me. The glyph bond flared into existence like a meteor bursting open a dark sky. But it was different. Not gold. Silver, the color of healing, of second chances, of starlight and deep water. His spiraling form hovered inches above the crater floor, wings slack, like even gravity didn't know what to do with him. For a long time neither of us spoke. I could feel it, the pain he carried, not just fear, but layers of it, abandonment, failure, regret, years of spiraled thoughts twisted so tight around his core that he probably forgot what it felt like to just exist without them. "I don't want to be a storm anymore," he said quietly. "You don't have to," I replied. There was no dramatic flash, no heroic music, no last-minute charge, just stillness and choice. When he leaned forward, every feather on his massive wings trembled. He was terrified, but he still chose to trust me. My fingers brushed against his head and something shifted. Not violently, not all at once. It was like a knot slowly undoing itself after being pulled tight for too long. He let out a sound I hadn't heard from him before. Not laughter, not a scream, a sigh, a long and shaking sigh, like he'd been holding his breath for years. And just like that, the thorns began to fall. Not shattered, not torn out. They loosened one by one, gently like petals dropping from a flower that had been clenched in the winter. His spirals, once erratic and jittering with tension, slowed into a peaceful rhythm. The eyes across his body no longer darted and blinked with panic. They closed in relief. He was finally still. I felt the bond really form. Not a temporary connection, not something forced by battle or desperation. This was earned, chosen, shared. For the first time, Thornedge wasn't trying to protect me from his pain. He was letting me stand with him inside it, and together we walked out of it. He stayed close afterwards, not because he had to, but because he wanted to. When he flew beside me, there was no anxious circling. When he spoke, his voice didn't shake. When he rested, his wings tucked gently around his body like a nest, no longer a shield. And once, while we sat on the ridge, as the stars blinked overhead, he looked up and whispered, "I think I like who I am now." "So do I." But now it came the time to take Thornedge back to my sanctuary house. The gateway shimmered behind us, closing with a soft chime of starlight as we stepped through. My sanctuary, our sanctuary, welcomed us. With its usual hush of peace, the glow of lantern light flickering through hanging vines, crystals humming gently in the ceiling beams. Thornedge hovered in the threshold, just inside the threshold of the pyramid-shaped home. He didn't say anything at first, he just looked. His massive wings curled in close to his body as if afraid to knock something over. The silver spirals on his form dimmed to a soft glow like moonlight on water. "It's okay," I said, reaching up to lightly touch his head, or the edge of his wings. "You're safe here." He nodded slowly, but I could tell safe was still a new word for him. Or a beak chirped from the rafters, feathers puffed proudly. Senna peeked from the second floor balcony, giving Thornedge a small, approving nod. Luna stood near the hearth, Myrno perched like a sleepy guardian at her feet. Thornedge drifted forward, careful not to let his feather tips graze the crystal shelves lining the walls. He paused when he saw a mirror hanging in the hallway, an old one I'd picked up from a Vel market, its surface rippling faintly. He stared at his reflection, then he said softly, "I don't look scared here." I walked up beside him. "You never were. You just didn't know where you belonged." His spiraling eyes blinked. "And this place lets me." I smiled. "If it wants you." He followed me into the heart room, where each glyph has their resting space, which had nests of stone, others mossy thrones, suspended hammocks, or pools of light. I showed him his. It wasn't big, just a quiet hollow line with soft clouds and spiral-shaped stones. A warm breeze gently circling above it, the place made for him, a reflection of his true form, calmer, kinder. He hovered above it for a moment, then slowly descended, letting his wings fold fully for the first time since I'd met him. He curled up beside the hollow, his spiraled tail gently circling his body. A sigh escaped him, peaceful this time. "I didn't think I'd ever sleep again," he said. "You're home now," I told him. "No one's afraid of you here." There was a long silence, then a voice so small I almost didn't hear it. "Not even me." That night I stayed nearby just in case, but Thornedge didn't spiral. He didn't twitch, or shake, or hum with panic. He dreamed. And in the morning when I woke up, he was already waiting near the kitchen trying to brew tea, using only the warmth of his feathers. It was a disaster, but we laughed, and it was perfect. I helped him to brew his tea. The tea was bitter, too many star flower petals, not enough bell root. Thornedge had tried to swirl the ingredients into place with his feathers, but they got tangled in the steam and he panicked mid-brew. Still, I helped him fix it. We added a drop of honey vine syrup, a pinch of solar bark. He stirred with the tip of his spiral tail, far more careful this time. When he poured it into mismatched ceramic mugs, one chipped, one glittering faintly like a comet, it wasn't perfect. But it was warm and real. We took our cups and stepped outside. The front porch creaked gently beneath us, lined with climbing vines and hanging chimes shaped like drifting moons. The air smelled like soft lighting and morning dew. Myrno coiled under the rail, already dozing. Ignazura let out a distant snort of contentment from Zena's window. And above us, the sky didn't move. It never did. 2 suns and 3 moons frozen in their celestial dance. The golden suns lit the eastern edge of the sky, casting honey-like over the trees. The the red, and the green sun shimmered near the clouds, stuck in eternal dusk. The red one pulsed softly, giving everything a quiet warmth, and the moon that's blue and full watched over it like a keeper of secrets, while the green one just sat there. Thornedge stared in awe, steam curling from his mug like a wisp of his old self, finally let go. "The sky," he whispered. "It doesn't change." "No," I said, "but it still shines." He sipped his tea carefully, holding the mug with 3 spiral-wrapped feathers. "I used to think I needed the sky to move, that if it stayed still I'd get stuck." I looked at him, and now? He looked back, eyes soft. "Now? I think it's okay to rest where things feel safe." We didn't speak for a while after that. We just sat. Me with my hands wrapped around my mug, Thorn Edge humming quietly, his spirals not spinning but pulsing gently, like that of the soft tide of a heartbeat. The sun stayed right where they were, the moon watched, and for once neither of us needed to pass. We had not now, and now was enough. I took a larger sip of tea, bittersweet, earthy and still steaming, just enough to fog the edge of my mug. "So, Thornedge," I said, keeping my voice light, "I was thinking maybe sometime we could visit the verdant market, grab a few things for your space in the sanctuary." He blinked, spiraling eyes, focusing slowly, thoughtfully. "For my space?" he asked, as if the idea still surprised him. "You mean like pillows?" I smiled him into my cup. "Sure, if you want. Or some calming stones, or wind bells, or maybe one of those biolite mushrooms that flicker like dreams. The market always has weird stuff." He tilted his head, feathers gently shifting like leaves in wind. "I've never shopped before." "You're not missing much," I teased, "unless you love hanging with bark-skinned goblins over fungus. Haggling with bark-skinned goblins over fungus prices." That earned a soft snort from him, a laugh even. The spirals on his body gave a gentle flicker of silver, brighter than before. "I think I'd like that," he said finally, "having things. Not just armor and spikes, but things I chose. Things that are mine." "Exactly," I said. "You've carved out a space here, Thornedge. Might as well decorate it." He looked out toward the horizon again. The suns hadn't shifted. They never would. The moons hadn't blinked. They never would. But something in him had something subtle and sacred. After a pause, he whispered, "Do they sell mirrors there? Ones that don't show you what you were, but what you're becoming?" I glanced at him, then leaned my shoulders into his, warm and steady. "They might, and if not, we'll make one." He didn't answer right away, but he leaned back into me, just slightly, spirals resting easy for the first time in a long time, and together we kept sipping our tea, bathed in the soft light of the unmoving heavens, making quiet plans for the future Thornedge had never thought he'd have. The mugs were now nearly empty. The sky hadn't changed, but something in the air felt different, softer, like the world had leaned in to listen. Thornedge was quiet, feathers gently shifting in the breeze. Spirals no longer spun out of control. They pulsed with a rhythm that felt almost peaceful. I turned towards him, watching the way the tea's warmth still curled from his breath. Then I said it not dramatically, not with ceremony, but simply and from the heart. "Thank you, Thornedge. You're my newest friend, and I'll cherish you." For a moment I thought he might spiral again, not from panic, but from emotion too big to hold. But instead his glow brightened, soft silver shimmering across his wings, a few feathers floating gently to the porch floor like falling stars. I've never been cherished before," he said, voice thick with wonder. "Not like this." "You are now," I said. "Welcome home." He tucked one long wing gently around my back carefully, gently, like he was learning what it meant to hold instead of protect. And in the frozen sky, in the unmoving moment, we sat together, two beings who had both spiraled now still, now safe, and now friends. And that, my friends, is another story and another episode. I will see you next time. May the gods of Nibiru shine their light down on you. Thank you. Goodbye.